Hong Kong records another death from COVID-19. As health workers disinfect the city's COVID hotspots, experts urge people to stay home as much as possible. And Britain warns of Russian attempts to steal research related to COVID vaccine development.
Good evening and welcome. Another person has died from COVID-19 in Hong Kong, bringing the city's death toll to 11. The death comes as health authorities report 50 new local cases, while another 8 were imported. As
Jacqueline reports, new worries loom over a potential cluster emerging from yet another elderly care centre.
Tiwanshan remains the city's worst COVID hotspot. The virus-stricken care home in the district has recorded 2 more infections. 6 others have emerged from the area's restaurant infection clusters. 5 more from the Tiwanshan shopping center. Among them, 2 are dishwashers in Genki Sushi and Meat Point, with 1 security guard. The nearby wet market also has 2 more vegetable vendors becoming infected.
I understand the stakeholders are closing down the Tiwanshan center and the market for thorough disinfection. I think that will help to stop the outbreak.
But she stressed the city's epidemic is far from over.
Journalists, salespersons, vegetable vendors, taxi drivers, bus drivers, people from all walks of life. The widespread of cases, the situation is really worrying.
At least 18 have unknown sources. Some work in the Landmark in Central, while others work at Hollywood Plaza in Diamond Hill, in Tsim Sha Tsui and in Yau Ma Tei. Hong Kong also reported its latest fatality from COVID, a patient at Ratunji Hospital. The 71-year-old who had chronic illnesses was rushed to hospital last night after suffering a cardiac arrest and was diagnosed with the coronavirus. More alarmingly, a 92-year-old senior resident, 1 caretaker, and a nurse from the Jockey Club Harmony Villa in Wong Chuk Hang were also diagnosed with the virus.
Please ask the elderly at home not to go out. And if you live with them, you should avoid going out too often. Take a special caution.
Meanwhile, a New World First bus driver and his wife have also come down with the coronavirus. This as authorities try to hammer home the importance of staying at home, not just for our loved ones, but also for those most vulnerable. Jacqueline, TVB News.
A local media expert is suggesting authorities find ways to reduce the number of people out on the streets to curb the spread of COVID.
And a civil service union wants the government to allow some civil servants to work from home. Caleb Leung has details.
Hong Kongers may find it difficult to grab dinner these days after the government banned dine-in services from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. But despite this and other stringent measures to quell the city's 3rd wave of COVID-19, the daily infection numbers remain high. Dr. Leung Chi-Chiu of the Hong Kong Medical Association suggested that minimizing the flow of people in the community may help. Right now, there are still many people going out for lunch, he said, and this may increase transmission risks. Leung also urged the public to avoid high infection risk areas such as Kowloon East and Tiwanshan. A civil service union is also urging the government to let some civil servants work from home to stop the virus from spreading. The Civil Service Bureau has already told departments that depending on the situation, they could allow certain staff to work from home. But the departments will have to make their own decisions on the premise of not affecting the provision of public services.
Leung
Chao-ting, chairman of the Federation of Civil Service Unions, said the government should instead issue clearer guidelines on who can work remotely. He said the authorities can also use this opportunity to set an example for other employers to follow. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
Tiwanshan Shopping Center is undergoing a major cleaning after a string of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the district. The cleaning is expected to take 2 days. The shopping mall is closed for today and tomorrow. Cleaners will be using bleach to clean the place, while disinfectant will also be sprayed throughout the center. It's expected to reopen on Sunday.
Starting today, those entering Guangdong from Hong Kong must prove they have tested negative for the virus within the past 3 days prior to their entry into the province.
At the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge border control point in Tongcheng today, travelers were told they will not be allowed in unless they show proof their nucleic acid samples have tested negative. I thought permanent Hong Kong residents like me are exempted. The instruction was unclear, this woman said. This woman, who finished a master's degree in Hong Kong, thought she could return to her home in Zhuhai by displaying proof she's undergone 14 days of home quarantine. She told us, "I'm like a guinea pig right now, but I have no choice and I've got to try my luck." She added she made 3 phone calls to relevant departments, but got 3 completely different replies as to what she should do. A similar scene at the Shenzhen Bay border point. This Shenzhen resident sought to enter the region with proof that he's undergone home quarantine in Hong Kong. But border control staff required him to display proof of his negative test results for the coronavirus. He told us he gave up in the end. All this as the city's COVID-19 infections maintain their rise. Last night, Guangdong province announced travelers from Hong Kong must show proof their nucleic acid samples have tested negative for the coronavirus within a time span of 72 hours. That must also be issued by a laboratory accredited by the SAR government, and they'll still need to undergo 2 weeks of isolation upon arrival. Meanwhile, civil servants, commercial workers, cross-border drivers, and students are exempted from the new regulation.
Overseas now, the number of COVID-19 cases in the United States has soared past 3.6 million, with over 141,000 deaths. Despite the grim figures, U.S. President Donald Trump is still claiming his administration's actions have saved countless lives.
Meanwhile, Georgia's governor is suing the city of Atlanta to prevent its mayor from enforcing rules to make wearing face masks mandatory. Leslie Tang has more.
COVID-19 cases keep climbing at an alarming pace in the U.S. The country shattered another record on Thursday, reporting 75,000 new cases. At least 30 states have seen record daily jumps in infections this month, with Florida, Texas, and South Carolina reporting record numbers of daily virus deaths. But U.S. President Donald Trump is praising his administration for saving lives while doing his usual finger-pointing at China.
My administration has also eliminated massive regulatory barriers in our battle against the China virus. These actions save countless lives, speeding up the production of equipment. That means ventilators like nobody's ever seen before. Probably the greatest source of manufacturing, the greatest achievement since World War II. We're now making ventilators for countries all over the world. In medicine, accelerating the delivery of life-saving treatments and ensuring that we will have a vaccine in a record time.
Meanwhile, as many more Americans are becoming more vigilant, the Republican governor of Georgia is bucking the trend by explicitly forbidding cities and counties from making mask wearing a rule. Governor Brian Kemp is now suing Atlanta after its mayor said she planned to defy his order and enforce a mandatory mask ordinance she issued on July 8th. Florida has emerged as the front-runner of the current outbreak, reporting almost 14,000 new cases on Thursday alone. Its governor is promoting reopening schools next month, despite a backlash from state Democratic leaders that he is not doing enough to curb the spread of the virus. Leslie Tang, TVB News.
Elsewhere in India has topped 1 million COVID-19 cases and is now third only to the United States and Brazil. There are worries over India's ability to confront a surge that could overwhelm hospitals and test the country's feeble healthcare system. India's response to the virus was initially sluggish. Prime Minister Narendra Modi bought time by clamping down on its entire population of 1.4 billion people in a nationwide lockdown on March 24th. Meanwhile, in Brazil, the country has breached the 2 million mark in infections. It has also recorded about 7,000 COVID-19 deaths every single week since May 25th. Brazil's former health minister, Luiz Henrique Mandetta, who was also fired by President Jair Bolsonaro, compared the deaths to multiple aircraft crashes every day.
Western governments are accusing a familiar foe of trying to steal valuable medical research, a coronavirus vaccine.
Well, intelligence agencies in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada say Russian hackers working for the Kremlin are attacking academic and pharmaceutical research institutions involved in COVID-19 vaccine development. Word that hackers are attempting to siphon secret research during the pandemic is not entirely new, but the warning to scientists and medical companies is startling for its detail, specifically accusing known hacking group APT-29, also known as Cozy Bear, said to be part of Russian intelligence.
We know that the Russian intelligence agencies have been targeting, in terms of cyber attacks, against efforts across those three countries and here in the UK, our attempt to find a vaccine through research and development for coronavirus. And I think that's pretty appalling, I have to say, to have the Russian government engaged in that endeavour.
It's not clear whether any useful information was stolen, but the UK government also said Russian hackers were the source of both attempts to interfere in the 2019 UK general election. The same group was implicated in the hacking of Democratic email accounts during the 2016 US presidential election. The White House, meanwhile, is also raising the alarm.
We worked very closely with our allies to ensure that we would take measures to keep that information safe, and we continue to do so.
A 16-page advisory prepared by Western agencies says the hackers are using custom malicious software to target global organizations. It's also specifying the types of software vulnerabilities being exploited.
And that is a wake-up call or a reminder to IT professionals at these companies to take whatever steps they need to do to fix up these glitches and to make sure that they themselves are not vulnerable and protecting their networks better.
Still ahead on tonight's news. Police search PolyU student union over last year's violent protests. Former aide to CY Leung found guilty of fraud.
Welcome back to TVB News. Police carried out a search at Polytechnic University today and seized multiple computers from the student union.
The search is reportedly connected with last year's siege of the campus in November. Dong Yao-na files this report.
Dozens of police officers arrived at Polytechnic University with a search warrant at around 12:30 p.m. Their target was the university's student union. Student union members waiting outside asked the police for their warrant card. Police argued they had given prior notice of the search, but student leaders insisted to have their lawyers transcribe the whole search warrant before letting the police in. After a standoff of around half an hour, officers entered the area. At around 2:30 p.m., they left with 2 carts of items. The president of the students' union said the police seized 5 computers, including laptops and desktops.
We are disappointed about it.
It's reported that the operation is linked to a case in which a police officer was hit by an arrow during last year's protests in and around the campus. A 13-day police siege of the campus last November marked one of the most violent episodes of the anti-government protests of 2019, with dramatic clashes between protesters and police. Union leaders denied rumors that they disclosed to police a member list of the university's archery team.
The student union believes the police search warrant has a weak legal basis, and they reserve the right to challenge the warrant if needed. Dong Yao-na, TVB News.
A one-time campaign advisor to former Chief Executive Lung Cheng-ying has been found guilty of conspiring to defraud the city's securities regulator.
As Naomi Haralila reports, Barry Chung was also found guilty of another charge of fraud in connection with a $30 million scam.
Barry Chung, the founder of the now-defunct Hong Kong Mercantile Exchange, was found guilty of conspiring with his CFO, Jackie Choi, to defraud the market regulator. Prosecutors had accused Chung and Choi of falsely reporting the firm's financial position to the Securities and Futures Commission to keep their trading platform afloat between 2012 and 2013. Chung denied this charge, but Choi pleaded guilty before the trial of conspiring with Chung and turned as a vital witness against him. The 61-year-old was further accused of cheating a company called Sinomex Finance out of $30 million to benefit his company, New Effort Holdings, which held a majority stake in Hong Kong Mercantile Exchange. Judge Amanda Woodcock found Chung guilty of both charges and adjourned the sentencing until July 23rd. Until then, both will remain in custody. Chung had acted as former Chief Executive Lung Cheng-ying's campaign chief and was later appointed to EXCO when Lung took office in 2012. But Chung resigned from all public posts when he faced SFC investigations a year later. Naomi Haralila, TVB News.
Police have safely dismantled a 45-kilo wartime bomb found at a construction site in Kai Tak. It was identified as an American aircraft bomb dating back to World War II. The discovery forced the closure of the nearby Kai Tak MTR station, which reopened at 7 this morning, and the evacuation of 2,000 people working at the site. The senior bomb disposal officer thanked construction workers and site managers for their cooperation.
The bomb was badly damaged and was in a dangerous and unstable condition. It could not be moved safely from the location. If it had exploded, it would have caused serious damage to nearby residencies and the nearby MTR. However, my team were able to work overnight to render safe the device, the bomb, without injuries and without casualties, despite some fairly terrible weather conditions.
A man arrested for attacking a McDonald's manager after being asked to put on a mask was granted bail today. The suspect was charged with 1 count of criminal damage and 1 count of assault occasioning actual bodily harm. That's after he beat up a manager in a McDonald's restaurant in Tuen Mun who reminded him to wear a face mask while ordering food. He also damaged a cashier's machine. The 25-year-old was granted $5,000 bail and the case was adjourned until next month.
Overseas again, at a breach in Twitter's security that allowed hackers to break into the accounts of leaders and technology moguls is one of the worst attacks in recent years. Cybersecurity experts say the breach will shake trust in a platform used by politicians and CEOs who use it to communicate with the public.
Somebody got into all of these VIPs, everywhere from Joe Biden to Elon Musk to Apple, and they were able to post one message that said, send us Bitcoin so we can return it back 2 times to you. The difference here is that they didn't break into the end users' accounts. They broke through this Twitter system account. Trust is the core issue here. Do we trust Twitter with our accounts? Do we trust that they are going to do the right thing? And when your credibility is hurt by an incident like this, you have to work extra hard to rebuild that reputation and rebuild that trust.
Twitter quickly deleted the tweets and locked down the accounts to investigate. That prevented verified users from access to their own accounts for several hours. The company says it has taken significant steps to limit access to internal systems and tools.
Kenya's candidate to lead the World Trade Organization says there is widespread acknowledgement among members that the body is in urgent need of reform. Amina Mohammed is among 8 candidates vying to succeed the current WTO chief, Brazil's Roberto Azevedo, after he announced he's quitting. South Korea's candidate, meanwhile, says the economic transformation of her country puts her in the best position to manage the world body. Yoo Moon-hee is the country's first female trade minister. The new WTO chief will face rising protectionism, a deep recession caused by the pandemic, and growing trade tensions. The leader is elected by the 164 member states based on a selection committee recommendation. No date has been set yet. That's the news. Thanks for watching.
Bye for now.